They're twisting the text. They are trying to conceal its true meaning. We've heard, but their edits are shallow. The truth will out someday.
Peace of the Lord to all of you. Welcome. We are back with Noel here on the studio after the last spectacular session of a lot of stuff to consider and to investigate. He is back to actually show us some more fascinating stuff. So, Noel, welcome back. How are you doing today?
Hello, JC. Thank you for having me again here. I'm doing fine, and I hope you and the audience as well are doing fine.
Great. Hopefully, everybody is doing well and looking forward to seeing the cool stuff that you've got for us today. So, yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay, so now we'll talk about the QIBLA. Now, if we have to compare the wind vane, the Arabic wind vane with the Old Maltese, we will find that in Arabic, the west is called Gharb, Maltese it's called Arb. So we can say that we have a match. Actually, in the village of Arb, they would say that they live in Gharb, which is even closer to Gharb, because they are the only Maltese variety in which they still pronounce the glyph GH. So they would say there's a Gharb, which is similar to Gharb, right? I don't know if you're seeing these differences between Gharb or Gharb or Arb. Do you
Well,
see them?
certainly I do, because I'm
Okay.
somewhat familiar with, of course, the Arabic script and stuff, but
Yeah.
also I'm Spanish. So we have these sort of things like the Z
Yeah.
sound that half of the Spanish
Set.
land will,
Okay.
yeah, some will pronounce it as the, but the other half cannot pronounce it as
Yeah. Yeah.
the.
Okay.
So
Okay. It's a
it becomes
similar. Okay.
S sound. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I'm used to having
Uh-huh.
the
Uh-huh.
same
Uh-huh.
people in one place where two
Yeah.
people will pronounce something like different, but nobody complains. It's not like
Yeah.
people would not understand. You will
Yeah.
just listen to that different pronunciation and your brain just fills in the gaps. So
Yeah.
I'm familiar with
But
it.
my question was whether it was too subtle to hear it, or it was quite clear that there is a difference.
Like there is a difference in the pronunciation, but like the
Mm-hmm.
same with
Yeah.
the Z in Spanish,
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
is very, very different. But if you are Spanish, you don't even notice that people are speaking in that manner.
Yeah.
But if you pay attention, then you see it's
Yeah.
two different letters, basically.
Because it's not always, especially for those that maybe are not used to hearing the language, it may not always be that easy to discern the differences, between how one manner of speech with another. That's why I was curious to ask the question. Now, for
Well, I
North,
got it.
okay, but your experience as well. No, for the North, in Arabic it's Shamal, in Old Maltese it's Shmiel, so we have a match. For the East, in Old Maltese, sorry, in Arabic it's Sharq, in Maltese it's Shar. So we can say that we have a match. Now, for those that maybe doubt if it's actually a match, because in Arabic it's the kaf and in Maltese it's the Arabic equivalent of the Hamza, then I would like to point out these words, which in Maltese we can say either as e or k, and therefore the ka is something in between. So, for example, a cock, it's either sardo or sarduk. A biscuit can be some Maltese call it a biscuits a, or other Maltese call it kak. We've got the surname al-Kurmi, al-Kurmi, which is the ancestor of the surname Kurmi that we have today in Malta. And it also is the ancestor of the village of Al Ormi, which in the past used to be called Kaz al Kurmi. And also we have Maltese dialects that don't speak the at all, and they just speak everything with a k. and we have a smaller number of dialects. I think just one that actually the vice versa don't pronounce the K, and they pronounce everything with the right? And I had a colleague of mine that knew Arabic, and she also told me that the Maltese from Cotonera still spoke the Arabic Kaf, at least until 30 years ago, and these were her relatives. So I think that should clear any questions of whether the Kaf and the are maybe related or not related. They are. It's quite easy to move from the Kaf to the or to the K. Now, the south in Arabic is Janub, but in Maltese it's Ibla. Therefore, as we saw, therefore, not totally different. And if we compare it, then it's not different from the Qibla, right? They are the same, Qibla and Ibla, right? But why do in Malta why is the south in Old Maltese as Ibla? Sorry, when Mecca is more easterly than southerly. Malta's here. Whatever is beyond this green line, Mecca is more to the east than it is to the south, and here it's more to the south than to the east, right? So if Malta's here, why is the south called Qibla when the Qibla is here? And it's not because people didn't know their directions, because they knew their directions much better than today, I would say. Right?
True.
So why is it that in Old Maltese the south is called the Qibla? Maybe it corroborates then Gibson's theory of the south-facing Qibla. If you recall, the oldest mosques that he measured, they had a south-facing Qibla. And the south-facing mosques were in the Maghreb. So we have then Gibson's measurement that the mosques are facing south, and also in Malta here, which in Old Maltese, the word for south is Qibla, Ibla, Qibla, right? Now, I tried to ask Arabs if they have retained this word in their speech, and what I could find is that only in Syria do they say south. Do they still say south as Qibla or Ibla? Right, it's Qibla. Sorry, with the kaf. Right. So I met people from Homs that still until today they call that they for them Qibla means also south, and also on this comment by Ibrahim Saleh here that also in Syria as well, in the coastal regions, they say Qibla means also south, right? And here is Mecca, should be here, right? And if you have in Egypt as well, they would say whatever is coming from the Nile, like against the current, it would be called Qibli. Now,
okay, that actually feels very, very relevant, very important, and I'm struggling to try to really make sense of it. So, for example, we know that the word Qibla does appear in the Quran, and it is generally translated as direction, because even to this day, they will say the Qibla is the direction of prayer or direction to Mecca. But so it would make sense, for example, if that word was from Syria and that's where the original Quran was written or put together, or at least those verses, that when that starts to move around, they will retain that. But how would you reckon they went? Was Qibla, did it originally mean south? And then, of course, through the traditions, it became something else. But in Syria, Qibla always meant south. I'm explaining this really poorly.
Mhm.
I don't see how you would change something as important as one of the cardinal points by going from something called south to something else, like
Yeah.
Qibla. And if it was
No, why
always,
remove, why change Qibla to Janub?
why change it indeed? So
And why change
in
only Qibla?
okay, actually that is as well like kind of
Well, I
cool
mean,
because if they
but
change
I
everything,
mean, it's a bit how is it when we know the question, we know the answer to the question. I forgot what is the term, but that's why, like, why change the one cardinal point? Actually,
exactly because it
but there is
reveals
also
something.
some other curious thing as well. I don't have it in the I don't have it here on the slides, but so we were talking about old Maltese. So how do the modern Maltese call it? So the word for Qibla, what used to be called Qibla, is now Nofsinar, which is a literal translation of mezzogiorno, right?
Hmm.
Um, uh, midday is the same. Midday, mezzogiorno, nofsinar. They are mean the same, right? Midday. Um, but the other three, so when they were, when the Maltese cardinal points were changed from Arabic, well, the South, or again, let me say it differently. In Maltese, it seems that the west, north, and east were changed in a different time than the south. That is also interesting, I think, and don't know what to make of it as well.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
seems
also interesting that the word for south is a word of Arabic from the Arabic inventory, but it's a literal translation of Mezzogiorno. Whereas the north, the west, and the east, they are Genovese, right? So Levanto, in Maltese we call it Levant, Punento, in Maltese we call it Punent, and Tramuntana. I forgot exactly how it was in in Genovese. Something similar though, and these are different than what standard Italian, because in standard Italian they don't say Levanto or Punento, they say Oste e Ovest, and for north they say another word. They say Nord for north. So
okay.
it's these things are interesting as well in Maltese.
Okay, so so just thinking about this, it seems to be something potentially very, very important. So the word Qibla in or Ibla in Maltese, it has traditionally mean south, and that matches as well the Qibla direction from Dan Gibson. So
Yep.
okay, that would make sense. But are you saying that the original meaning of the word Qibla was south, 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 and then in Maltese it retained the meaning, but in Arabic they changed that meaning and they came up with a different word for south to differentiate the Qibla as the direction of prayer? Or is that what you're implying,
Potentially,
or it
yes.
could be?
Yes, it could be. Yep. Because if you see, it's
Hmm,
only in Syria that they have retained it, because you like, okay, in Syria, Qibla is south, you know? I mean,
right.
it's south, Qibla is the same direction. But why have it in the other areas, where it's not south, where it's obviously not south? So could be, of course, I'm not saying that it was, but I'm saying could it be? Especially when you start to put, like all the other tentative, because everything is tentative, but all their kind of seem to point in the same direction. Everything emerged
South.
from Syria. Everything emerged from Syria. There was an expansion to the west, and then something changed what was there. What the one of them is the direction to Mecca. That changed in 750, which corresponds to the Abbasid takeover, right? And but maybe they still retained the Qibla as to mean south, because maybe Mecca was something that actually came later. In fact, if you, I'm sure that you're familiar with Jay Smith's let's say videos on this topic, and he says that the first record that we have is 900. So by that time, Malta was conquered by the Arabs, right? And so maybe it was retained, and then during the re-Arabization in the 1040, they destroyed whatever, whoever, like the sense of Qibla, because the changes are grammatical, they're very deep. The Arabization that occurred.
Okay.
So it could be. It could be.
It is very important.
Yeah.
Like
could be.
Certainly, I think we need to think about this more. And actually, for people watching, let us know in the comment section below. Is there anything that you have seen, any other research that would either basically debunk this or quite the opposite, confirm it, or any other bits of information? It does look odd that one of the key features in the thesis from Dan Gibson, one of the problems, I would say, is the Qibla directions that in this eastern part don't really face Mecca when they really should have. And then, of course, he comes up with an explanation that it is meant to be the parallel direction between Jerusalem and Mecca. But is it possible that there is more to the story and it was related to the direction south, and that has to change later? If anyone watching, you have any additional information about this, please let us know in the comment section below, because it looks like a very nice puzzle.
Yeah, Dan Gibson, he says that there were, in this area, they were pointing south. Not all of them. Some of them were pointing in the, what he terms, the parallel. So that's, sorry, the in-between. So, sorry, the parallel. They are like in this direction. Then you've got some that pointed to Petra and some that pointed in between, somewhere in this general direction here. But of course, all these different directions stopped by 750, if I recall correctly. There was a period in which there was a transitioning period, and then they stopped after 750, which coincides with the opposite takeover from the Umayyads.
Right. It's supposed to be 750, although that
750.
Question mark. We could put a question mark on that because there are some things that go outside of that. But yes, generally after 750 is when we see more Mecca, until in the end, obviously everything is Mecca. But yes, the date normally given is 750, but it's a great amount of land with lots of different powers, even within the Islamic Caliphate. So there could be more to the story. I do feel that maybe this thing about Qibla might actually answer some questions. So again, if anybody watching has more details about this, please let us know. This is a very, very cool subject.
So if we look in what does Qibla mean today in Arabic, well, okay, this is Wikipedia, so take it for what it's worth, right? So it means either direction in any direction, or simply direction to Mecca. And in conclusion is that in Old Maltese it means south, right? If we open the dictionary by Aquilina, we find it also means a south wind. And there is also a theory that maybe the Qibla is not related with what we've talked before, but it's derived from the Qibli wind, right? However, I'm not convinced, and I will tell you why. Because the Qibli wind, according to this website, is what the Libyans call the Shirokko, right? And we also have a word for that in Maltese. It's called shlock. We have also a direction. It's southeast. Shlock. If you, for example, type Marsa Shlock in Maltese, because it is the harbor on the southeast. Right? Curiously, it says it's described by the Mediterranean and the Hejaz. So I don't know why, but it's a wind that originates in Libya and Egypt is described by the Hejaz. This part I don't really understand, but it originates in that area and goes to the north in that fashion. So therefore, the question is, if the direction is derived from the Qibla wind, then why do the Syrians also have it as a direction? That doesn't make sense, in my opinion. So, although of course, if the wind maybe was more widespread, then it can have that sense, But then it has like the chicken or the egg. Was it first the wind and then the cardinal point, or the other way around, right? But just looking at this map here, I think that it's the wind, actually, the Qibla wind, was something that was derived from the cardinal point, because it emerged here and somewhere here, considering what we know, the other evidence that we know linguistically, etc., and that there was a spread like this. They all knew that for them the south was Qibla. They expanded. Here they were met with this wind, and they call it Qibla, the Qibla wind. And from Qibla you can go to G, K, K, G. They're all in the same family, so to speak. So throw it away, and this is it. I think the conclusions that we can tentatively make. It's a further corroboration of the Syrian origins of the early Arabs, and also of Gibson's south-facing Qibla thesis. Now, if you don't have any more questions, I can go to the next section.
Yeah, that's very good. I was still just blown away. Sorry, no pun intended. With the whole Qibla meaning south, and then the whole thing with the winds. Okay, I need to think about all of that.
Yeah. Now, let's go to the Maltese Christian vocabulary that is derived from Arabic. Now, unsurprisingly, there is the Maltese Christian vocabulary that is derived from Arabic. Unsurprisingly, part of it is derived from Libano-Syrian Maronites. Okay, but there is something particularly to Malta, to the Maltese Christians, that we have Arabic words which are derived from the Islamic inventory, not the Christian inventory. So certain words which in Maltese are more similar to Islam than they are to the other Arab Christians. Right? And so without further ado, I would like to go through this. So let's start with the easy ones, the words which are similar with the Lebanon-Syrian Maronites. So we have words like Mamudiyya, which means baptism, Knisya, Rar, Fraiha, Tauba, Kursiya, these are all words which you can find them in with the Lebanon-Syrian Maronite. Some of these words are also found all over the Mediterranean, as far as Andalusia, Spain, if I'm not mistaken. So, for example, words like Mamudiyya, like Udisa, Assis. Now, Assis, which means priest, is actually derived, is not an Arabic word per se, but is more a Syriac word, right? And so it's interesting. It's another Aramaic word which we find in Maltese, right? So it's very interesting. Why do we have this word, Syriac word, in Maltese? And finally, Ruh al-Qudus. Now, Ruh al-Qudus is an old word, right? Because modern Maltese, um, at the Holy Spirit in modern Maltese, it's the Spiritus Santo, which is derived from Southern Italian, Spirito Santo, or as the South Italians would say, Spiritus Santo, right? But Ruh al-Qudus is very much attested. The first Bible that was translated to Maltese, you will not find Spiritus Santo, but you will find Ruh al-Qudus. There is a priest, Capuchin priest, which he still does not say Spiritus Santo, but he says Ruh al-Qudus, and I was also happy to attend another mass in which they to kind of raise awareness about this word in one of the prayers of the faithful during the mass. They used Ruh al-Qudus, and I was so happy to hear it. I was amazed and happy to hear these words in the mass again. Now, what is also very interesting is that this word, Ruh al-Qudus, is according to the screenshot from Wikipedia. Okay, so take it what it is. I know it's Wikipedia, but the first time that it was attested is in the Quran, right? And it is a literal translation of the Greek, Hagion Pneuma, right? So, Holy Spirit, basically. So this is really interesting that the Ruh al-Qudus that the Maronites use and that the Maltese used to use, the first time that it is attested is in the Quran.
Okay, just briefly, because for once I can actually just debunk fully Wikipedia. It's this is the same expression used in the Peshitta. So the Peshitta uses Ruh al-Qudus in the Syriac. So it is definitely
Another
100%
Syriac word,
attested before. Yeah. And by the way, it actually comes from the Hebrew. So it is in Hebrew, then it goes to the Syriac. So everyone has used this. Actually, in the Old Testament, you will have, I think it is in the Hebrew, the Ruh al-Qudus, a different pronunciation, of course. But yeah, certainly whoever wrote that thing in Wikipedia is a Muslim.
Okay, so it's not coming from the Greek then?
No, it comes from the Hebrew.
Okay. Okay, so let's go to another word which is attested in Arabic, and this is Christmas. And Maltese Christmas is Milad. And in Arabic, it can mean either Christmas or it can mean birthday. Right? If you actually Christmas is Eid al Milad, right? Eid al Milad. Eid al Milad, like that. I have to read it. Because in Maltese it would be Eid al Milad, right? So I have to rewire a bit to Arabic. So this is also another word which is attested in Arabic. Now, let's go to the interesting stuff, to the words that are coming from the Islamic inventory. Well, let's start with these one, Lent, right? So in Islam, they have their own land, as we know. It's called Ramadan, and that is similar to the Maltese Randan, right? And the Christian Arabs, they don't use Randan, they say As-Sawm al-Kabir, right? So we can see that we call Lent Ramadan, right? Vespers, this is according to Ajus, right? This research. In Islam, it's called Salat al-Asr. Maltese, we call so Salat al-Asr. Of course, they are not the Vespers, but they are evening prayers. The third prayer, actually, and translates to evening prayer, right? And the Christian Arabs, they don't have a comparison according to Ajus. However, I thought it a bit strange that they don't have a word for Vespers, and I asked ChatGPT, and according to ChatGPT, of course, take it for whatever it is, right? ChatGPT suggested that it's Salat al-Ghurub or Salat al-Masa. So Salat al-Ghurub, which is the prayer of the sunset, right? From Ghurub we have Maghrib as well. So, as well. Yeah, Harb, I think. That's where the sun sets, if I'm not mistaken. But in any ways, it translates to sunset or evening prayer. And Salat al-Masa means evening prayer. So, ChatGPT and take it for what it's worth. Easter. Now, in Islam, they have Eid al-Karban or Eid al-Adha, and which is also called Al-Kabir al-Light. And the Maltese Easter is called Eid al-Kabir, right? And he says that Christian Arabs, they call it Eid al-Qiyamah or Eid al-Fusuh. Now, if you recall, Al-Jalad, he says that in Iraqi Arabic, he translated this Eid al-Kabir. I think it would be the pronunciation. So maybe in Baghdad, in Christian Baghdadi, sorry, they have a similar word as well, right? But you notice that Ajus wrote in 1980 and Al-Jalad wrote in 2017. So maybe this is something new in the literature, right? It's a new discovery in the literature. And this is the problem of the Arabic varieties that are not documented, unfortunately. Just also a note is that we call Sunday Yom al-Awmin, right? Because it's when Jesus rose from the dead. Hello. So in Islam, it's Alayka Salam. Oops, there was a mistake there. It should be Slim Alik, right? And the Christians, then they don't, they prefer to use Allah Ma'ak rather than Salam Alik because it's has this Islamic connotation, right? So at least as those that are recorded in Lebanon, Aleppo, and in certain Syrian villages, right, that he recorded. But in Maltese, it's Slim Alik, and it's very interesting. For example, if I go, would excuse me to go on a little bit on a tangent here. So when Mary, when the Archangel Gabriel went to give the news to Mary, he addressed it like so: Islim Alik, Mimliya bil Grazia, right? Islim Alik is the same, Alayka Assalam. But it's also very interesting that when Jesus in the Maltese Bible went and appeared to the apostles after he rose from the dead for the first time, he didn't say Islam alaikum, right? But he wrote but he said Il pace macum. And here also in this Bible, in the Bible we see the Maltese that is changing, right, from Islam alik to Il pace miak. And now Islam alik, unfortunately, is very much disused and more Il pace miak is said. Yes. Now this word in Maltese always made me think, why we say it differently than the rest of the Arabs. So what do the Arabs say? They say aywa or na'am. But in Maltese, we just say Eva or Iwa. But the Christian Arabs, they, according to Ajus again, they don't say, they avoid Eva or Iwa, sorry, Aywa, but they just say Na'am, because Eva is has this much Islamic connotation. Aywallah, yes, by God, So this is very interesting as well, that there is that we don't really know Na'am in Maltese. It's not attested, but we just have the word which the Christian Arabs, at least those of Lebanon and Syria, avoid, this is very interesting. Finally, Jesus, right? So in Islam, it's called Isa or Isa, to say the ayn correctly. It's not attested to Christian Arabs. Instead, they say Yeshua. Now, Michel Anton Vassalli, who was alive in the late 18th century and early 19th century, he recorded Sidna Isa, and he wrote it that it means Dominus Noster Jesus, right? So for our Lord Jesus. Though he writes, and this is from Wikipedia, so take it for whatever it is, whatever it's worth. That's why I left it to the last. Although, because here it's confusingly, it's written that although for him this use is chiefly that of the Saracens, whereas the name properly refers to Joshua. So Sidna Sidna Isa. The Maltese, they are not using it correctly when they are saying, when they mean Dominus Noster Jesus, but it should actually refer to the prophet Joshua. But however, there was also in Wikipedia, it's interesting, maybe has more, maybe of a clue, is that there is the toponym Ben Isa. Now, it says that the etymology of Ben Isa is Bin and Isa, which means offspring of the sea. But I disagree, because I don't know of any Isa which means the sea, because the sea means Bahar. We say it as Bahar, and I've never found it that the sea means anything with a similar word to Isa, and it was unsighted as well. But as you can see here, Ben Isa could be the son of Jesus, right? So someone whose name is Isa, and like the Arabs, they used, I don't know, whatever, Bin Ahmed, let's say, right? It could also be Bin Isa. And Isa as a name is a practice that today is found in Spain, or the Spanish-speaking countries. Jesus, many guys are named Jesus, and also with the Aramaic, Aramaic-speaking people. They would call their sons, of course not Isa, but they would name their sons after Jesus. So it could be also interesting that here we have Isa, because I don't know of any Muslims that are called Bin Isa, or Isa in any case. Do you know of any that are called Isa? I don't think so.
I've never heard that. The one thing that I heard, I think it's from the Christian Prince, is the word Messiah is completely and utterly forbidden. Nobody would actually use that in any possible way to refer to any person ever, and certainly not naming someone, even given that as title. That is very much forbidden. But as the name of Jesus, there must be, but I've never met anyone with that name.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so, actually. That maybe it's maybe it's a taboo to name after Jesus, right?
Well, the common is Muhammad, Abdul, Ahmed, but particularly Muhammad is yes, because there is as well the family traditions, which is happens as well in Spain and stuff. So your father is called Muhammad, then you're called Muhammad. Your first son is called Muhammad. The second one is Ahmad, and the second one is Mahmoud. So it's as well the culture thing. But no, I don't think. I think it certainly exists, but it's not a very common thing at all.
I think the word "ban" here can be a clue, because in Maltese we say the word for son is bin, like in like the Arabs, but the in North Africa, and quite large swathes of North Africa, they don't say bin, but they say ben. So that could also be a clue, that someone maybe who's named Isa and was coming from the somewhere from the Maghreb. Also, we have to remember, and here again, the language the language series becomes handy, because in Maltese we do have traces, we do have words of Berber origin, small as they are, small in number as they are. So, for example, an interesting word is the bouch, which means olives. Today we use the bouch, but we have a toponym which is called zaytun. So here we're seeing the inverse of what we're seeing here. Here we're seeing a ban which is not in use. But with zaytun, actually it's the other way around. It's the Arabic word that is replaced by a word that is used certainly by the Maghrebi Arabs, the bouch, and I think even, and if I'm not mistaken, it could be also a Berber in origin. So there's the point is that there was certainly a link with the Berber world, and we didn't go that deep in the language of Malta, but if you go to Islamic origins, then you can see there is I've made a few slides of the links that we have linguistically with the Berbers, okay, and some very interesting aspects from a linguistic point of view.
Okay, cool. So that was phenomenal. I really am going to think a lot, particularly about the whole QIBLA thing. That has really blown my mind. There are a couple of things that you have shown that I think we need to discuss in a little bit more detail. So I will speak to you about those offline and see if we can actually take them somewhere. But this is phenomenal work, Noel, like well done. I think that we need to not only consider the Old Arabic that people are already investigating, and the Syriac and the Hebrew, of course, but to also pay more attention to the Maltese.
Yep.
And actually, perhaps just to explain briefly as to why I think it could be, like you're saying, these things are very cool, and it could give us a lot of answers. There is this little place called Sentinel Island, which has been detached from humanity for like thousands of years. So it's a little island near India, and there is a tribe in there. No one in, no one out. Now is absolutely forbidden, of course, because we have viruses and stuff. But when people went there, I think it was in the 50s or 60s, and they tried to communicate, they realized that they actually had a language that they could sort of understand. It was an ancient language, which obviously it had evolved into different ways. But the people in Sentinel Island, they didn't really evolve the language that much because they didn't have any foreign influences. So it was kind of like a more pure ancient version. So by having Malta detached from the rest of the Islamic kingdom, maybe the words will give us answers to Quranic verses and stuff, which lots of them, they are not understood even to this day. So, but anyway, Noel, very well done. I have really enjoyed this presentation. It's been phenomenal.
My pleasure.
Okay, so we will call it a day here. Would you like to say any final words to the audience?
No, first of all, of course, thank you for hosting, and I hope the audience finds it interesting. I hope they write their thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Do you think that the Muslims in Malta, do you think that the people that were named Muhammad in Malta in the 15th century, they were practicing taqiyya, or it was more a question of assimilation with each other between the two cultures? What do you think of what is more plausible in the toponym? What does the toponym Tal Muhammad mean? Does it mean of the praised one, or does it mean of the person that is called Muhammad? and maybe even a nickname of someone who's praised, or maybe even Hamad, maybe. So yeah, sure.
Or was it Jesus all along?
Or was it Jesus all along? Yeah, just like in Spain, they still call their sons as Jesus.
Yes,
Jesus.
and actually it's a very Jesus, and it's a very common name as well, reasonably common.
One of the most common names, if I'm not mistaken, or was.
I have, well, the most common one is Jose, but Jesus is quite common. I have met.
But Jose is a derivation from Jesus, is it?
I actually can't remember the etymology. I know
Okay.
that we have normally one name in Spain will have 4 or 5 different ways to actually say.
Or is it Joseph, Jose?
Yeah, that one is from Joseph. It sounds
Joseph,
actually very close to it.
Yep.
Losing the F, because in Spain we can't do Fs very well. Okay, great.
Okay.
Well, Noel, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for all of this work that you're actually putting and showing here, and hopefully this will lead to lots and lots of interesting answers. And to everyone watching, thank you very much for your company today. Make sure that you leave your comments in the comment section below so that Noel can actually address them. And any other bits of information that you have for us, please send them our way. We're always happy to listen to those things, and together we will find more answers. So for now, I hope that you have a lovely end of the week, and we will see you all soon. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There is only one Quran, right? Every Quran in the world is the same. That's what you've been told. You have been told a lie! 26 different Qurans!
There are 0 Dawa guys apparently left on the planet who are willing to defend Muhammad in a debate.
Everybody can go and read it. This is a book full of mistakes in Arabic, in the grammar, in the spelling, in the pronunciation.
Whoever wrote the Quran made an error because they didn't quite understand what was written in the 7th century in the Torah and the Injil.
Stay away from these translations. They are propaganda.
We know that stories about Muhammad were made up on an industrial scale.
What in the world is this Injil?